Let's get one thing straight. A home can look cheap no matter how much you spend on it. You could have marble countertops and designer furniture and still end up with a home that feels like a sad showroom. Cheap isn't necessarily your budget, it's the lack of intention. Most people aren't making bad choices on purpose. They just don't know what to watch out for. So, in this video, I'm breaking down the real reasons a home can look cheap and how you can fix them with smart and stylish choices. There are 3 key reasons a home can look cheap, and none of them have to do with how much you spent. First, it feels thoughtless. A home looks cheap when it's thrown together without much thought. You see it all the time with generic art, matching furniture, and random impulse buys. It looks like someone filled the space just to get it done, not to make it feel like home. There's also the design fundamentals, like scale and lighting. If the proportions are off or the lighting is dim, it doesn't matter how expensive your stuff is. The space will still feel wrong. And then there's clutter, cords everywhere or piles of stuff with no reason. It doesn't just look messy, it shows a lack of care. But the good news? Even a home filled with affordable secondhand stuff can feel elevated when they're chosen with care and styled thoughtfully. Second, it lacks material integrity. Another reason homes look cheap is the lack of quality and material honesty. When a space is filled with obvious imitations, like plasticky foil veneer furniture or obviously fake marble, it just feels off. Now I know that high-end materials are very expensive, but it's not about whether something is real or faux necessarily. It's whether it looks convincing. It's like wearing a knockoff handbag with the logo spelled wrong. It is obvious, and not in a good way. You don't need to fill your home with solid oak and Italian stone all over, but you do need to be mindful of how things look and feel. And third, it is visually flat. When everything in a room is smooth and uniform, it misses the richness and depth that real materials like wood, stone, or woven fibers bring. One mistake on its own might go unnoticed, but stack a few together, suddenly the whole room feels cheap even if you can't quite put your finger on why. Those are the 3 big culprits behind a cheap looking home. Now let's break down 9 real mistakes that show up again and again and how to fix them. If you've seen any of my design mistakes series, you'll know that curtains should be hung high and wide. That means having the curtain rods go wider than the length of the window and hanging them at least 2/3 of the way up between the top of the window and the ceiling. But here's a common mistake. You follow that rule, but the curtain panels aren't wide enough. So when you draw them closed, they stretch out awkwardly and barely cover the window. No fullness, no folds, just a sad sheet hanging over your window. This looks cheap because it lacks softness and depth. Instead of a rich, beautiful fold, you get something that looks like you've hung a towel over the window. So here's the fix. Your curtain panels, meaning the fabric itself, should be 2 to 2.5 times the width of the window. So if your window is 2 meters wide, you'll need 4 to 5 meters of fabric in total, or 2 to 2.5 meters for each panel if you have 2. Yes, this sounds like a lot, but that is what gives you proper fullness and folds when they're closed. And that is what makes curtains look expensive. Now I actually have a whole video on curtain mistakes and how to fix them, so check that out if you want the full guide. A lot of people focus on furniture that sits low to the ground. Sofas, beds, desk, coffee table. And sure, those pieces are important, but if you stop there, your home is going to feel awkward because everything stops halfway up the wall. Why is there nothing happening on the upper half of your walls? Design is about layering, and not just blankets and cushions. It's about mixing heights across the room, from the floor all the way to the ceiling. You can do this easily by hanging art, adding tall pieces like floor lamps, plants, or bookcase, or installing things like sconces or pendant light from the ceiling. These details guide the eye upward and help the room feel more expansive. Your eyes start to move around the whole space and not just stop at sofa height. If you're not sure where to start, check out my free in-depth guide called Secrets to a Beautiful Home. It includes a decorating checklist and some video lessons that you can use to audit your space and make it feel more elevated. We've all heard the advice, just add a pop of color. But when that color becomes the only accent in the room and it is repeated in this exact same shade across different objects, that is when it starts to look cheap. Good design needs nuance, and that applies to color too. Instead of picking one shade and repeating it everywhere, vary both the tone and the material. If it is green, use different shades of green across different objects and materials. If it is red, Use different shades and tones of red spread out across different textures. This creates visual interest and makes the space feel intentional, while still keeping the design cohesive. Using too many faux finishes can instantly cheapen your home, especially the ones that try too hard to mimic real materials. Take these two vinyl flooring, for example. Same material, but the gray one looks cheap, while the warm oak tone looks quite convincing, right? Same thing with these two porcelain tiles. In my opinion, the one on the left is trying too hard, and it shows. Or take these two faux plants. The Monstera tree on the left looks very bad, but the faux tree on the right is surprisingly convincing. The issue isn't that something is faux, it's the bad imitations that stand out. Heavily grained marble or overly patterned wood almost never looks right because nature's imperfections are hard to imitate. And our brains are also very good at picking those up. Take a budget wood furniture with printed foil veneer on the surface and compare that to real wood veneer, even if it is from IKEA. And the difference in texture and grain is so obvious. Real veneer uses a thin slice of actual wood, so you get the natural grain and tactile feel. Foil veneer is just a printed sheet of plastic heat pressed onto a board. It's low quality and it looks cheap. That doesn't mean faux pieces are off limits. One or two is fine, especially if you mix in vintage or tactile materials. But if everything is faux, the space won't fool anyone. So if you want your home to look elevated, choose materials that feel honest, not ones pretending to be something they're not. And if you're ever stuck trying to picture how something might actually look in your space, I've built a tool for that. It's called Room Visualizer AI. You just upload a photo of your room, answer a few quick questions, and it shows you a redesigned version of your space styled to your taste. It is currently in beta and invite only for now, but you can join the waitlist via the link below. Generic decor is one of the fastest ways to make a home feel cheap. I'm talking about those mass-produced art prints, meaningless quotes, or that same vase and pampas grass combo you've seen 100 times on Instagram. It's not that any of these things are bad, but when your space is decorated mainly with generic decor, it starts to look like a display unit, like you decorated just to tick a box, not to create something personal. I've said this many times, but my personal rule is that anything displayed has to be either beautiful, functional, or sentimental. That could be a handmade ceramic bowl you found at a market, a framed photo of your family, or even a quirky little object that just makes you smile. And it doesn't have to be expensive at all. Even IKEA or Target finds can feel meaningful if they were chosen with care. What cheapens a space is when decor feels like an afterthought, something you grabbed out of boredom at checkout. Because when the things in your home are generic or meaningless, the space starts to feel that way too. It doesn't look curated. It looks like you're decorating out of obligation. And honestly, why spend money on something that doesn't spark joy or tell a story? So, don't be afraid of blank space. It is better to wait for the right piece than to rush into buying something meaningless. The most beautiful homes aren't always perfectly styled. They're the ones that feel lived in, layered, and real. Another common reason a home can look cheap is when it feels flat, visually dull, lifeless, and lacking texture. When everything is smooth and synthetic, like MDF, plastic, and polyester, it creates a sterile feeling. It misses the richness that real materials like wood, stone, linen, or woven fibers bring. But why does texture matter so much? Studies show that humans are naturally drawn to texture because it helps our brain make sense of the world. Texture gives visual cues like surface roughness, depth, and material quality, making spaces feel more tactile and appealing. Imagine walking through a forest. You'll see barks, leaves, stones. Each element adds sensory richness. That is part of why nature feels so calming and visually satisfying. In your home, you don't need to go overboard. Just mix in a few textural elements like a wool rug, timber pieces, linen fabric, or even plants. That small contrast adds depth, gives the light something to bounce off, and keeps your eyes moving around the space. You've probably seen these: the dreaded boob light in the hallway, the flat mirror above the bathroom sink, shiny silver cabinet knobs, or ceiling pot lights in every room. These builder-grade finishes are the default choices contractors use to maximize profit, not to make your home feel special. When they're everywhere, the whole space ends up feeling bland and forgettable. It's like being served plain toast for every meal. Functional? Sure. Would I enjoy it? Probably not. The fix doesn't have to be expensive. Swap a few of those builder-grade details for something more interesting. Replace that bathroom vanity mirror or light fixture. Trade the boob light for a statement flush mount or a pendant. And if you're renovating from scratch, don't just grab the first option you see at Home Depot. There's so many better looking, budget-friendly alternatives out there. These small swaps can go a long way in making your home feel more personal and elevated. Many people struggle to find the balance between two extremes. A space with no cohesion at all, and one that is too matchy-matchy. Overly matching decor looks cheap because it creates this one-dimensional space that looks like a quick purchase instead of a thoughtful curation. But the opposite is just as bad. When rooms feel totally disconnected with random objects and no visual thread, it looks chaotic and also signals a lack of design intention. Ultimately, you want a space that feels cohesive and considered, but still layered with personality and visual interest. The key to that is to mix, not match. But to do that successfully, you need a plan from the very beginning, which means knowing what you like and don't like, what your needs are, and how you want to feel in the space. I'll walk through this in Module 1 of my courses using the cozy method. Once you have that clarity, start by anchoring the room with one main piece. Could be a bed, sofa, or even a rug, and then build around it with complementary items. That means introducing contrast. Don't go for identical pieces. Use a layered color palette instead of a single pop color like we've talked about before. Mix patterns with varied scales, but tie them together through a shared color. Get furniture or objects in different shapes or even styles, but tie them together through a common material. This goes for room to room too. Use consistent trim, repeat an accent color, or echo a material to subtly connect different spaces. This technique of creating visual continuity without being repetitive is what I call the red thread, and I'll dive deeper into it in this video. Clutter is a silent killer of good design. It creeps in slowly. A candle here, a random trinket there, and before you know it, your space looks more like a garage sale than a home. I'm not saying that your home has to be immaculate, but it needs to be cared for. Not a big mess that says, I've given up on this space. And that starts with a simple system that actually works for your life. Maybe it's a tray for your everyday items, a basket to hide the mess, or even just a drawer to toss things into at the end of the day. Life becomes so much easier when you have a system and place for the mess to go. And if you want a step-by-step method to declutter your home, check out this video on how to do that effectively. Another common trap is over-decorating. I'm talking about surfaces styled with a bunch of useless trinkets, or a sofa buried in cushions where you have to spend 10 minutes clearing it just to sit down. More isn't always better. Edit and curate your belongings, because that's where the magic usually happens. If you enjoyed this video, check out this video on 6 design ideas worth copying to make your home look amazing, and the 7 key design principles that make every home look good. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.